Yeah, we're recording again. The mic's fine. I'm just conscious of big bear men like you.
Well, not
I think
bear.
the last person to start ragging that about like you were then was Jack Marshman. He broke it.
I won't touch it, I promise.
Welcome to the studio, Neil. Absolute pleasure to have you. This is again starting again because the camera wasn't right. My technical inadequacies. Welcome, mate.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for the Coca-Cola diabetes in the can. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Like I said, you don't get a figure like this through hard work.
Um, Ex-military, business owner, right?
Correct.
Business manager, executive.
Yeah. Let's steer away from the title entrepreneur because I don't think I am. I don't think I qualify.
How was the mate? How have you found the pandemic? Like a positive experience or negative experience for personally? And answer that without any guilt whatsoever. And I ask because I found it generally for myself, a positive experience.
For me, positive. It was just. It didn't make a vast amount of difference. It was just a change of routine.
Okay.
Which, having been a house husband since 2008, was manageable because it's all about establishing a routine and sort of that's how you determine how your life. From a business perspective, COVID has absolutely propelled the business through the roof.
Interesting. Good. I'm glad. Like as bad as it is for the businesses that haven't done well at all, or even don't exist anymore, there is positive in it, and some businesses have, like you said, done well. Oh, why? Go on. Brief me up.
I was going to say, for me, it's very simple. And I can trace back on the computer and I can go back to the sales charts. And you go back to March the 16th when the Prime Minister said, if you can work from home, please do so. And we had a huge spike in sales because everyone went, well, if I'm staying at home, fine. I'm going to buy myself some nice coffee and I'm going to work from home. Thank you very much. Orders started flying in. You're like, okay, that's cool. And then the following week, which was March the 23rd, and it was, right, lockdown, you are now to stay at home. And again, we had a double the effect of the week before. And when you look in back over the period as a whole, you then get to our sales increased by 160% in 3 months, which from a growth perspective is absolutely fantastic. Isn't that great? And again, the thing is, I haven't crowed about it because I understand that the people who've gone through the hardship, people who've lost their businesses, people who can't trade, who can't operate, who really had to think on their feet to try and survive. And I'm going, actually, I'm doing really well about this, but I can't shout about it because that's not the done thing. But as an overall, for the business, it's gone really well. For me personally, it was same old, same old. The coincidence we had from a family perspective was my wife had been medically discharged at board, but hadn't been discharged from service. And so she took on a voluntary role with the Association of Royal Navy Officers, acting as their operations manager. And her transition was, you are going to be working from home. So the week, and I think it was the 16th, she was in London, in the office at Arno headquarters. She was working for the day. The Prime Minister's briefing was that night, and it was a case of, you go home, we'll send you a laptop, and then you will work from home. So the transition and the change of routine of having her working at home and having the children at home, because obviously school's closed, was like a massive change of routine. And once we got into a routine, we were fine. And that was just, and now life can carry on. We had a few bumps and scrapes along the way, in the way that children throw up bumps and scrapes along the way. My little lad, whose name is Hugh, was probably the best example of that when we hit the Easter holidays. And we're like going, Hugh, you don't have to go to school anymore. And we'd got them really well set up in the dining room. So both him and his sister were sort of sat, and you'd say, right, you work from 9 o'clock till 10, and then you'll have a half-hour break, and then you'll work from then till then, and then you'll have your lunch, and then you'll have another session, then you'll have a break. And the routine was perfect, worked perfectly well. We got to Easter. We said, that's all right, Hugh, you don't have to go to school anymore. And he's like, yeah, cool. And he just slobbed on the sofa watching YouTube for 3 days. But he got bored. And when he gets bored, he does not naughty things, just stupid things. And we're like, going, right, but this can't go on. So we're like, going, right, sorry, son, you're going back to school. The school was really good. They'd thrown out a whole list of stuff, just a range of activities. It was almost stuff to say, just here's stuff to do, just to keep you occupied. And so we just went back to the school routine and went, there you go, 9 o'clock, school, hour and a half, break, hour and a half, break, lunch. Got him back in that routine. It was absolutely fine. And that was it all the way through until the kids went back to school. And he didn't go back until September. So it was perfectly fine. Oh, yeah, we eased it off over the summer and stuff like that. But yeah, that was COVID's been not too bad. It's been a bit stranger the second time round with the Christmas Tier 4 lockdown and the post-Christmas lockdown. That's been stranger because it wasn't the same as previous, and people are trying to adapt, so things are changing. How's it been for you in your work? Is that...
What do you mean? Sorry, what do you mean it was... Why was it stranger?
I don't know. It was just things weren't the same as they were during that first session through till summer. And we unlocked and we did things and got shouted at for going to the beach and all that kind of stuff. But when the Christmas lockdown came in, there was almost like a different feel to it, and therefore things operated slightly differently. The schools operated differently. By this time, my eldest, Charlotte, their stuff with school, they were doing a lot more lessons by Zoom or by Teams or whichever software package that they've got, which they weren't doing in the summer. They were just saying, here's work, get on with it, and we'll have once a week, twice a week, we'll have face-to-face via whatever. This time round, it was, you're on Zoom, here's your English lesson, here's your math lesson, here's your chemistry lesson, kind of thing. So that changed, and she ended up having to, we took her out of the dining room, she was then in her bedroom on her computer. So Hugh was in the dining room on his own or wherever. So there was a change of feel, there was a change of mood. From business-wise, that was a bit odd because the sales went a bit haywire. And when you talk to other people in the sales environment, and they were saying it was almost like a return to a traditional post-Christmas lull, sales falling off, turn around at the start of March, start picking up as you start heading towards Easter. And it literally followed that curve. You're like going, okay, that's sort of to be expected, that's fine. And then we got through Easter, and when you would have thought that summer trade will then pick up, and it didn't. April went downhill again, and nobody knows why. There was no particular reason. You're like, okay, so just have to work harder at doing other bits and pieces to try and chase up sales. But overall, COVID's not been too bad.
Yeah, good. Glad to hear it, mate. Glad to hear it. Yeah, it was... I don't think I did notice any significant change over Christmas for me, but then I'm not in the game like you are, like what you do. I've got a day job where I'm a project manager. So, and the business I'm in, it was, and the part of the business I'm in was largely untouched. Not the same for other parts of the business. We've got an aviation department who deal in, we're a SATCOMs company in Marsat, and we've got an aviation department, and when there's, so you go on a plane, there's Wi-Fi, that's us providing that, and when there's no planes flying,
Yeah.
it's not very good, especially for a business that relies on aviation, But again, I was quite lucky. I was so busy. I'm always so busy with stuff. I don't really notice what's going on around me in terms of patterns of life and things like that. So I didn't really notice any change from my perspective. But anyway, going off that, what's it like being a pad's wife?
It's been very entertaining. It's not. I mean, like I was saying just before the interview started, house husbands are not common in any walk of life.
Sorry, do us a favour, pull that microphone just across. Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
Yeah.
House husbands are not common in civic structure anyway. It's still an evolving change of who's going to be the breadwinner, who's going to stay at home and be the caregiver kind of thing. That's something, it's evolutionary. So house husbands, there's not a lot of. And within the military, even fewer. And if I go back to 2008 and you think about how I ended up there, and the numbers sort of become apparent. So my wife got posted to PGHQ in 2008, and we moved not far. We were at RAF Halton. Kay was working at Defence Dental Headquarters, and I was working as a lecturer at West Herts College. The move from Wendover to Watford, which is where I was working, we were only talking 20 miles. Childcare went from £465 a month to £1,000 a month. And when we totaled it up, my wages as a FE lecturer, I would have been working for £10 a week.
Oh my God. What were you lecturing in? Sorry.
Public services.
Okay.
A great department of predominantly ex-forces, one ex-prison officer, a Thames Valley police special, and one professional PhD lecturer who'd only ever done politics and history at university. So she was our big educational professional within the department. It wasn't a badly paid job or anything like that. But when you worked it all out, we got to, as I said, £10 a week. By the time we took out childcare, travel, car, food, all that kind of stuff, it was ridiculous. We're like, okay, we're faced with a real decision here. Fine. The pragmatic thing is, Kay had a great career ahead of her. She needed the freedom to do whatever the job required. And PGHQ being one of those places where you could go anywhere at any time, or you're going to be routinely visiting units and whatever. And she was working in clinical assurance. And this was in the early days of what you would now know as the Care Quality Commission. And she was doing that kind of job for the military. So once a month she would go away. She would go to Afghanistan, she would go to Iraq, she would go to Diego Garcia, she would go to the Falklands, she would go to Cyprus, she would go to Gibraltar, she would go to Germany, all over. The only way that she could do that would be if I was at home with our, at the time, one child, which was Charlotte. And so we're like, okay, well, if I'm only working for £10 a week, we're not losing anything. I might as well become a stay-at-home dad. And so that's what we did. Charlotte was 2.5. I stayed at home, and the idea was we would do it for that job because we knew that job was going to be fairly high tempo for her. And then once Charlotte started at school full time, I would then look at something else for me to do that would put me back into the employment sector. As it happened, two things changed. One, Kay fell pregnant with Hugh, and two, we then got the posting that we didn't want, which was to Portsmouth, because that took me away from the option that I wanted to pursue, which was to go to university, go back to my roots as a combat med tech, qualify as a paramedic, and therefore, if I qualified as a paramedic, irrespective of where we got posted in the world, I could always be employed. So if you're in the UK, I could go and work on agency paramedics. If we were abroad, I could work abroad with local, or I could work for the MOD, because there is invariably, they would snap your hand off to go, yeah, I'm a qualified paramedic. Do you want someone to do this? Yes. So it was one of those, that's what I was going to do. But Hugh came along. So it's like, okay, well, there we go. There's another 5 years of me staying at home and watching Teletubbies. I'm good with that. We're fine. And so it was only when Hugh started school full time that we then turn around and go, right, okay, I now need to revisit that, but we're 5 years down the line. The paramedic, me going to university was probably unachievable financially. So, okay, what else can we do? Well, I'll look at a part-time job. So I got a part-time job because at the end of the day, the kids are still at school. I've still got to walk them back and to school. I wouldn't be able to get a job that would pay enough to pay for wraparound childcare. So I needed a part-time job. Got a part-time job in the coffee industry. And that led us on.
To Explorer.
Led us on to Explorer Coffees. But it was that step
Okay.
to go from, right, both children are in full-time education. Now I need to do something.
Yeah, no, and you drifted away from the mic or something.
Am I? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's it.
I'm not going to break it.
Closer. That's fine.
Oh, cool.
There you go. Cool. Yeah, I don't think. What was it like? What was that like at first, being at home all the time? Did you struggle with any like boredom or anything like that? I mean, I couldn't. I don't think I would really struggle doing that. Yeah, having said that, with a caveat, it's probably it's probably something that a lot of parents, a lot of dads, a lot of mums would love to be able to do if they can't, is to be at home all of the time with the kids.
Yeah. It was a change. And you suddenly go from being in a working environment where you're talking to people all day long, you are having conversations. It might be about the weather, it might be about, I mean, at the time, like I said, I'd just been working in education, so you're talking about teaching, you were talking about teaching packages, you were talking about trips, you were talking about students. You had that constant chat all day long. You then went to an environment where the only person you've got with you is a 2.5-year-old who you are not going to engage in conversation. You know, as highly intelligent as my children are, they're not going to debate the politics of the then Labour government and how it impacts on local green policies in the same way that you would be talking with another adult. So you go through this thing, you go, okay, right, fine. I'm on my own, I'm with a 2.5-year-old. And I've got to say, both of my children, really, really good. They didn't need me to occupy them. They didn't need me to play with them all day, to engage with them, and we'd do stuff, but they didn't need. They were quite happy to amuse themselves really well. Therefore, I could get on and I could do the housework. I would do the washing. I'd do the ironing. I'd do the cleaning. I'd do the gardening. All that kind of stuff. But what you do find is, one, it is incredibly lonely, because you haven't got someone to talk to. The only person you get to talk to on that daily basis is your spouse when they walk back through the door. And they've just had a horrific day at work and they want to sit down, put the feet up, have a glass of wine, and you're like going, well, I'm really bored, so I'm going to talk at you for 2 hours. And like that going. So my wife was like, Neil, just go away. Okay. So there was that. So you get into the whole social segment of being part of the patch. And this is the bit, I can see the look in your face. Because here it comes. Here comes mums and tots. Here comes coffee mornings. Here comes pudding parties. And all that sort of glorious stuff. And yeah, you do. You may say that before you've had children, I'm never going to do that. No, because you need it. And you need it to happen, and you get into that routine, and you get into that lifestyle. I mean, I very much understand the ladies who lunch. I understand where that's comes from, and I understand the need for it, because that's your adult contact time, and I can understand why people want to do it. I thoroughly enjoyed coffee mornings. Coffee mornings were good fun, but I was the only bloke there. Mums and tots was fine, because the kids could just be kids and go bananas, and you like going, it's not in my house. If they get played up the walls, I don't care. They can feed themselves cake, carrot sticks, yogurt, crack on, doesn't matter. We're all good. They're enjoying themselves. I'm sat at the side talking to another grown-up about the colour of pants choice in Tesco's.
Are you a small talker, though? Are you a small talker?
I can do.
Well, you have to. Well, now you can, yeah, because you've been been a pad's wife for God now.
Yeah, but
could you do it before?
Yeah.
Like for me, I don't. I think I don't. I would not. I would not cope well in that environment.
You know what? I could turn around and say, I think I might have to say thank you to Sandhurst, because Sandhurst does give you that whole ability to talk to absolutely anybody and everybody, and to put them at ease and talk to them about stuff that's relevant to them. So actually, yeah, I was fine. And the other one that I used to get in those early days, because I was ex-service and a lot of the other wives weren't, is if they didn't understand what was going on, they didn't understand what was happening, and they would talk to me because I walk the walk, talk the talk. So you could turn around and go, oh, no, it's fine, yeah. Right, husband's got to go to Afghanistan. Right, okay, well, he's going out to do this job. Well, it'll be like this, and it'll be like this, and this will happen, and it'll be fine. reassurance and all that kind of stuff. But it was explaining it in ways that they understood, which perhaps their partners might not have told them. So they just say, "Yeah, I'm going to Afghanistan for 6 months. Bye." So that was. So I was at a bit of an advantage there, and therefore I probably didn't go through a lot of the problems that young married military couples go through. When here's your sweetheart from university, and Darren's joined the Royal Navy, and Julie is an estate agent, and they get married and they end up in a patch, and then he goes to sea for 9 months, and she's like, "What's going? What do I do now?" kind of thing. And I never had to go through that because I was former serving. I was absolutely fine. He's like, "Okay, yeah, Kay's going away, yes." And well, Neil, are you going to be all right on your own? Yeah, I'll be fine. Oh, but how are you going to be with Charlotte? Well, she's my daughter. I've raised her for 2.5 years so far. I think I'll be all right. Because that's the other good one. Absolute classic. And Kay goes out. "Oh, is Neil babysitting?" Well, he's not babysitting. He's parenting. It's his child. Get that? That's a very common one. So yeah, that was that first tour at Northwood. That was my introduction to being a pad's wife kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Portsmouth, which was a complete culture change.
Why is that?
Right, I was going to say it depends. How much contact have you had with the senior service?
Oh God. Right, I have to be careful here. I've got good friends now who are in the senior service. Shout out to Simon Piles and Gavin Tuak. Right?
Yeah.
But, oh, yeah, they both are. My first interaction with the Royal Navy was in the Falkland Islands in 2002. I was just a young Tom in 3-para. We went out there, and it was for the 20th anniversary. We were out there on the Roman Infantry Company.
Yeah.
I was going to say tour then. Absolutely was not a tour. It was 4 months of hard graft, don't get me wrong. And then, but also that was timed because 20 years after the Falklands War, first official para-reg deployment there 20 years later. So we went to get ready for some ceremonial stuff in Port Stanley, and we were chucked into a hangar with everyone was going to be on that ceremony, which included Royal Navy and RAF, and I couldn't believe how sorry Simon and Gav, I couldn't believe how much different they were from the army and us, and how they just appeared to me like civvies, and they appeared to me like children. Now, again, in fact, you know what? It's not they. It was one. I'll rephrase it. It was one. I was focused on one sailor who was just winding me up because he was acting like a kid. The reality is, it's just a different culture. Like, I know that, but at the time, I was going, "What on earth? Get these people away from me now!" Bearing in mind, I'd only been in for about 2 years, a year and a half. I was a young lad myself, but they were just so different. Yeah. It was so different. It was my first experience of wow. We are all vastly different. Yeah. Vastly different. Again, I want to say again, I have the utmost respect for the senior service, especially Gavin Tuak and Simon Piles. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. No. I've got the utmost because I'm married a member of the senior service, so I think I've sort of earned my place. Mine was from that military. In the military, I was fine. I'd got introduced because the medical services have been tri-service for a very long time, and let's go back to 1998, SDSR 98, and when everything sort of came into that blend, and the medical services were already ahead of the curve, so they were very much used to speaking to the Navy, the RAF, and no problem at all. As a house husband, the cultural change for me that was massive was moving to Portsmouth. Now, obviously, I've been Aldershot, I've been Colchester, I am used to Catterick, Tidworth, Bulford. I'm used to the big army garrison. I'm used to the garrison way of life. Even though up until that point I hadn't been a pad. I understood it because I was part of it, whether I was a junior soldier and you were doing security patrols of the pad, so or you'd be invited around someone's house for a barbecue. When I was a junior officer, it was that welfare and pastoral piece of going to see Private Jones and his wife are having problems. Okay, well, tell you what, don't come in the office. I'll come round to your house and we'll have a sit in the chat and we'll see what you can do. You know, that kind of piece. So you're used to how that military family works. Portsmouth was complete alien culture because you go there and the Navy has an independence. You are taught from a very, very early part of your military career to be independent of, that's the base, that's where you work. You don't get a lot with single soldiers accommodation because you're living on ship or you're living on in bunks. So you're encouraged to go and buy your own house. You're encouraged at 18, 19, 20. Go and buy a house. Go and buy a flat. Go and have your own place. Because then if you go away for 9 months, you come back, you've still got a house. And so you go off the patch in Aldershot, say, and you go down to Portsmouth, and you're expecting patch life to be the same. And it isn't. Nobody talks to each other. Or they do, but in a very different way. So you moved into the patch, and you're like that going, knock on people's doors. Hi, we're Neil, Kay, small children, dog, broken Land Rovers, cool, here we are. And people are like going, hello, welcome, thank you, bye. And there was, the social cohesion wasn't there. We thought, this is weird. And then Kay's like, going, no, that's just, people just live independent lives. They don't get involved. Oh, okay. So we had a street party.
You organised one?
Yeah, of course we did. But what we did, we didn't just invite so where we live is really, we're in a little odd patch, so it's not like a big 1,000 house patch, sort of Falklands Park or Aldershot or the back end of Colchester. We've got 20 houses and we've got 60 civvy houses, the majority of which are owned by serving or retired naval personnel. So it's a very military orientated place, but there is only 20 houses. So right, we'll have a patch party, and it was the royal wedding.
William,
yeah. So we had this patch party, and we invited all these people, and we invited everyone who was in the military houses, and we invited all the civvy houses from just over the road from us down, and then whatever military people that we knew up the street said, yeah, come on down. And one of the things that turned out, so there was 2 families who lived 4 doors away from each other, who had gone through basic training together, who had never spoken to each other, and they'd lived there for 6 years, but didn't realise that he lived 4 doors away from him. That's the sort of independent nature. They just did not talk to each other. The other one was the civvies from across the road, and we're still friends with them now because we moved. Because we moved away and then moved back to virtually the same place, and they came to the party and they went, "This is great. Okay, we should really do this more often." Well, we hope so, and that's it's all been very convivial and lots of alcohol's been drinking. I'm not dancing naked on the garage roof yet, but give it a couple of hours, I will be. I went, no, this is really cool. We've lived here for 25 years, and it's the first time that anyone from the military houses has ever spoken to us. We're like, you're joking? Right, so literally the road was a dividing line, and the people in the military houses did not speak to the people on the opposite side of the road.
Why do you think that's like that? Why do you think that's so different? What's the reason?
I was going to say, I think it's because people are encouraged to have this independent lifestyle. I was going to say the flip side.
But why is that? But why? What?
I don't know.
Is there something to be gained from not having that and having the cohesion? Or is that just because of a difference between the cultures of the needs and the cultures of the army compared to the navy? Because I'm going to guess that the RAF would be the same as the way the navy is. Yeah, you're breaking that microphone, aren't you?
I'm not going to break it.
Flipping grizzly bear in the studio. Go on.
I'm a gentle person. No, because we'd done a tour. We'd done 2 years at RAF Halton, and for me, RAF Halton, yeah, it was small, but it was still very garrison-like, and everyone talked to each other. And you had families' happy hour, and you had street parties and stuff like safari suppers. Have you ever done a safari supper?
Never heard of it.
Right, okay. So safari supper
sounds a bit gay, mate.
It's not. It's really good fun. So it's almost a bit like it's like a different version of Come Dine With Me. So
definitely gay. Go on.
So you turn around and say it doesn't matter how many households you have. So right, so you and your missus are coming for starters.
No offence to gay people. Sorry.
Yep.
Oh,
You and your missus are coming to mine and Kay's house for starter, along with Bob and Claire from number 22. And you come to us for starters. And then for main, you go to Simon and Catherine's, and we're going down there to Bob and Carol's, and you sort of go around. So you have different courses of the meal in different people's houses. So you then get to chat and meet, and you start off at one house for drinks. Then you all go to different people's houses for starters. Then you go to different people's houses with two other couples for main course. Then you go to a different house with two other different couples again for desserts. And then you finish up at one person's house, patio, barbecue, garden, house, depending on the weather kind of thing, for drinks. And then that just carries on until whenever everyone goes to bed. But it's a good way of having where you can, instead of you had a party of 40 people and you might only talk to one or two people all night, you literally do talk and have social life interaction with everybody, and then you all come back together for just mass drinking at the end. As a social activity, it's really good. I know it sounds almost keys in glass jar cut, but it's not. It's just
I wasn't thinking that.
for the look on your face says different.
I wasn't thinking.
But it's a very social activity and it's great fun. And it means that you get to know everybody and you understand them. And you don't have to be a great chef. You could, here's a cake I bought from M&S. We're not judging you on your cooking ability. We just go, we're actually there for the social bit to actually say, actually, I've never met him. Did you know that she is an accountant who works in Wendover? Did you know that he is working on the test team that's developing the Tempest fighter, but he's working out of RAF Strike Command? And you get to know the people, you get to know what they do, because there's only 6 of you at a time. So it's not like you're in a mess or something like that where you've got hundreds of people around you and you only ever talk to one or two people. It's a really good social activity. So we did all this. And yet you get to Portsmouth, it's like, nope, none of that. Right, where's mums and tots then? I've got Hugh. Hugh was born, what was it, 4 weeks after we arrived in Portsmouth. I see, okay, right, I'll go to mums and tots. Go to mums and tots. Well, there's the bits of Portsmouth, instead of all being in one place, you've got that patch over there, that patch over there, that patch there, that patch there, that patch there, this little patch here, we're on a little pitch there. And you've got all these disparate bits, so you never actually get all the people in one place. And you've got to remember, you've got Portsmouth on one side of the harbour, Gosport on the other side of the harbour, with HMS Sultan, HMS Collingwood, Dryad up at the top. So you've got all these different component parts that were almost like 5, 6 separate little garrisons that actually don't talk to each other. But even though it's all one conglomerate, it's Portsmouth base area. So yeah, that was for me was a massive culture shock. It was really, really, really hard, especially then being a house husband where there was just me. I was the only bloke in the village, kind of thing.
Mm.
The flip side of it, and here's the good one. We did 2 years in Gosport. Kay was at the Institute of Naval Medicine, and she got posted to Gibraltar. And you go to Gibraltar, and there are 2 patches. One is, if you said, the officers' patch at Four Corners. The other is the other ranks patch down at Europa. But it's Four Corners is a little bit of an oddity because it's a gated community. So it's very limited access. And in some respects, it's not very big. I want to say 60, 70 houses at the time, I think. In fact, if it was that many, I'm not sure. So it was quite easy to do those kind of activities there. Worked really well. Patch barbecues there were a monthly occasion. Hey, because you're by the Mediterranean, it's sunny weather, barbecue, everyone out round the back, tunes on. Somebody had put a big screen TV out of the window of the ground floor flat onto things so you could watch the football on BFBS and all this. It was cool, absolutely brilliant. Loved it. The interesting thing there was, for me, that was going back to that garrison life where you would walk down round the patch, you knew everybody. And Gibraltar's a very social place, so there's a big amount of official social functions that happen. Civic ceremonies, events in the mess, events at the base, sports activities, all that. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So and it's a very compressed community. So for me, it's like, yeah, that's like being back in Colchester. This is cool. I absolutely loved it. The flip side then was when you got Navy. It was predominantly Navy families, and they went, oh yeah, been in the forces 20 years. Oh yeah, it's the first time we've lived in a married quarter. Really? Oh yeah, it's the first time we've lived in a married quarter. Right, okay. It's the first time we've lived in a community like this. What, in 20 years? Yeah, because they've never done it. Because that independent existence that wasn't the case. So for them, that was the complete opposite. They went through a culture shock to go into that environment. When I was like going, yay, I'm home. This is cool. This is excellent. Come on, kids, let's go to the swimming pool and go and meet up with everyone. Let's go to the beach.
All that socialising sounds exhausting. I get it though. My girlfriend would be having. I tell you, when she was when you were talking about going house to house, that start at one place, main the next, and then dessert the next. I guarantee, listening to this, her palms would be sweating at the thought of all that interaction with people.
In a bad way.
Bad way.
Bad way. Right. Okay. Oh, I was going for safari suppers. Absolutely
It
brilliant.
does sound exhausting. I see. It sounds cool. It does sound cool. It like once in my lifetime, maybe.
Yeah.
But it depends on needs, doesn't it? It's like I understand it, and especially you in an environment where you don't, where you have to force that interaction, like you're saying on the army pads. This doesn't happen, does it?
No, because
And it varies from unit to unit.
it does.
It?
I was going to say. I mean,
Big way.
that's one of the keys. That successful unit, that really cohesive unit, has a good active patch where people are thing, because that if people are having problems, that the regimental family clowns in and go, right, okay, we'll help you out, we'll do your garden for you. Your husband's away at Brecon, fine, okay, let's get you sorted out. You got a problem, okay, they'll look after your kids, we'll go shopping, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's that kind of interaction which we're used to, but I say the Navy doesn't do that, and the RAF falls somewhere in between.
I'm really trying to understand why the Navy's like that. I'm sure. Do you reckon it's got something to do with? And I'm just guesstimating here. It's just pure speculation. But I would have thought that people who join the Royal Navy are from more affluent backgrounds than people who would say join the army. No, do you reckon?
No.
Is that no experience? And I just thrown that out there. I've got no idea if that's true or not.
No, I wouldn't say so. You've got people from,
And it was a big generalization,
yeah.
absolutely massive generalization as well. Because I know that's not the case with friends I've got.
No, it is. It's just this independent nature. From the lowest AB upwards. And this is one of the things. And I'm sure Gavin that will sort of back it up. This whole thing. You are encouraged to go out and buy. Invest in property, because you're going away for 9 months. You're going to bank a load of money. So you turn around and go, right, okay, yeah, fine, bank a load of money, buy a flat, because it's a solid investment. But then you've got your home, you've got something that you can invest in, but they do it at a very early age. Whereas we as junior soldiers would be told, oh, look, it's Thursday night, here's Colchester, here's the Hippodrome, go.
And probably we are more prone to getting moved about. Whereas are the Royal Navy less so? I'm still trying to find answers here.
No, I was going to say the one for that is you've got me. I understand the home port rule. I don't necessarily understand the career profile of you staying on anti-submarine warfare frigates for your entire career. I don't quite.
What is the home port rule?
The home port rule, as I understand it, and I'm sure a million people will turn around and go, no, Hallsworth, you've got that completely wrong. But it's effectively that you say that you are going to be based predominantly in your career at Portsmouth or Plymouth, or you're a submariner. You're going to spend 90% of your time at Faslane. So you buy a house in Faslane because that's where you're going to be. Yes, you might get posted to PGHQ, you might get posted to Navy Command, all those kind of things, but predominantly you're going to be in place, whichever one of those three. So you can elect to say, right, I am staying in. So if you're allocated a quarter, you say, right, my home base is Portsmouth. So if you get a posting then to PGHQ, say, you can retain and your family can stay in Portsmouth and you commute on a weekly basis. And this is one of the things that I found, and this is going back to when I was in service. You know, I was at my last job was at the Department of Officer Training at Keogh Barracks in Aldershot. Tri-service environment, officer training, you know, RAF, Navy, Army, and you get to like going, oh look, it's Friday afternoon, and they're out of here. And it was wacky races because, you know, Navy, I don't need to be here on a weekend. I don't live here. My family's down in Portsmouth. Thanks very much. Boom, gone. And that was it. They were gone. And they'd be back Monday morning. And you wouldn't see them. Because that's their home base. So that's where. So it means that the individual moves, but the family stays put. So you've got continuity. And, you know, the whole discussion about continuity of education, all that kind of thing. But if you're invested in a particular area, if you're in your own house, fine. If you're not, if you're in married quarters, fine. Because you're still going to go, if you were promoted and you were entitled to a different quarter, you just go, okay, well, you're going to move from quarter A to quarter B, but you're still going to be in Portsmouth. You're still going to, your kids are still going to go to that school that they're already going to. So it sort of works. I understand it. But the bit where I'd say I don't necessarily understand is, right, okay, so you're a weapons specialist and you work on air defence, so you're on Type 45 destroyers. Well, that's it. Well, Portsmouth is your home base because Type 45s don't work out of anywhere else. They work out of Portsmouth. Okay, fine. I can see where you would then invest in yourself going, even if I get posted to Raleigh as an instructor, I'm going to come, I know, because this is my trade, I'm coming back to Portsmouth because I'm going to work on that type of ship predominantly. So they, you know, if you said 50% of your career is going to be here, I suppose, I don't think it would work in the Army, in my mind, apart from one or two units. Yours being the prime example. You are Power Edge, you are going to predominantly spend your time working out of that garrison. Yes, you might get posted away to Catterick, or you might get posted to be an instructor in Brecon, but you're going to come back to Colchester, and then you can get posted out again, and then you're going to come back to Colchester.
Yeah, you're right.
I could see it work,
but of SFSG.
But it wouldn't work across the whole of the Army. And I suppose you could say that with the RAF, now that it's narrowed down its fleets kind of thing, that you could turn around. It sort of, and in fact the RAF were sort of doing it because, you know, a lot of people have bought property at the airbase where they're likely to be working, or if they're not working, they're only going to be away for one job and then they're going to come back. So I don't know, but yeah, that's there you go, taking you one stage further in your understanding of the senior service.
I've given this.
Good book.
Jack Speak. Have you seen this? Have you?
Oh, have two copies.
Right, have you?
One signed by the man himself.
By who?
The other, Rick Jolly.
Oh, I didn't even see it. Very good. Checking. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Strange beasts.
Medical services with
strange creatures. Strange creatures. Royal Navy. Definitely.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's interesting being obviously being a Pongo in amongst all the Matlows, because that shows.
Being where? What?
Being ex-army, being amongst the Navy.
Oh.
Especially, I think, yeah, Gibraltar was good because the command structure out there is predominantly Navy. And I go, yeah. Oh, I speak Army. I'm not fluent in Navy at all. What's that boat doing there? Shut up! Yeah, I've learned that one.
Yeah.
But it's cool.
The one that always confused me was the naming convention of bases, HMS, and I can't even remember them all now. Simon and Gav briefed me up, tried to explain it all to me. Her Majesty's. You get. I can't remember. I can't even remember. My mind's gone blank. You get ports. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you get ports. You get bases. Ports, bases, and something else. It's all a bit weird. Anyway, because I don't know what I'm talking about. I'll get a phone call after this podcast.
The only one I ever think was the thing about the shields and the shapes of the shields, but that's about it. And
what is that? Go on. Blow my mind on this one.
Because your ship's crests determine what the round ones are. The diamond ones are bases, and something else is that one is an RFA. Diamond is a base. Oh, yeah, I don't know them all.
Oh my God.
It's good fun.
How have you found? What was your journey into business like? Did you have a background in business at all? Ever set up any company before?
Yes, and it's. Sorry, get told off again. Oh, if I touch your microphone, you
I've
tell
let
me.
you get away with it for about 20 minutes now.
Okay.
Oh.
I feel like Casper the dog on TikTok. Sorry, Dad. Yeah, so when I left the army in very late 2004, apart from being very disillusioned when I left the army, which I was, because in effect I didn't want to leave. So it was, I'm going to do something. What am I going to do? Well, I'm invincible. I can do anything, because the army's told me I'm invincible and I can do anything. So I bought a pub. What a great idea that was.
Oh, what?
Bought a pub.
Oh my God.
And so, and that was my resettlement. So I did my pub management course, and I was getting myself sorted out. I was also getting myself out of a relationship and into one with Kay. And I had a flat in Aldershot with the ex-girlfriend. But we went, we'd go to this, right, okay, I'm going to buy a pub. And we found a pub, and I did the business plan, and I did the business case, and I'd had a meeting with the brewery. I won't mention which brewery it was. And we had this meeting, and it was a very positive meeting, and it was like, and the idea was, this was the last week in November. In fact, it could have. I think it must have been something like the 30th of November. No, it was on a Tuesday, and the idea was that this pub was a bit run down, a bit rack and ruin. I said, okay, well, I need to get my life sorted out. I need to get my flat sold. I need to get all my money into place. So I'm looking at taking over this pub 1st of April. And they're like, going, yeah, it's a good idea. It gives us a good handover. But the person who's running it at the moment has another pub in town. They're fine. We've worked with them for years. We understand. They'll keep this tumbling along.
It's in Aldershot.
No, this was in Cheshire, in Buckinghamshire. Okay. So that was the plan. So I had, if you said, a 4-month, well, 3-month running, that I would start taking over the pub at the start of March for a formal takeover on the 1st of April. That was on Tuesday. On the Thursday, 10 to 5 in the evening, I get a phone call from the area manager from the brewery. Yeah, you know that plan? It's changed slightly. We've just been handed the keys to the pub. The person who owns the lease on it now has basically thrown the keys at us and walked away. How soon can you be in the pub? And I'm like going, God, I've no idea. Well, I still need to, I've got to get a flat sold. I'm not really in a position to do this. How about Monday? And me being me, I'm invincible, I can do anything. So I went, okay then, but you've got to understand X, Y, and Z. And so we took over the pub on the Monday with no money, no plan, no equipment, nothing. Literally, I just turned up with a car full of stuff that I'd emptied out of the flat in Aldershot, and was like, let's go. So that
was it an operating pub?
It was an operating pub. So it wasn't.
How big? What kind of pub is it?
A backstreet local.
Okay. What kind
Real
of area?
proper,
like rural?
No, Chesham is on the very end of the Metropolitan line.
So it's in the centre then?
No, it's at the very end of the Metropolitan line, but it's just as you go into the Chilterns and into the outer Hertfordshire kind of area.
Metropolitan line?
Yeah. So it's Chesham.
Fucking Chesham. Mate, I thought he was saying Cheshire.
No, not Cheshire.
I thought he was saying Cheshire.
No, that's where
my hearing.
These headphones. So, yeah, we did this, and as I said, that first couple of days was just utterly manic because it was just in shit state. There's no other way to describe it. It really had been left to go. It was being run by an idiot. So you're like, okay, right, fine. But the realistic thing was we went into that pub on the back foot with no money. So we were in debt from day one, and we chased and chased and chased our tails. And silly things like, you would have thought a pub to do food. Well, actually, to do that, we need to get the kitchen sorted out. The kitchen, when we moved in, was effectively a domestic kitchen. It would have passed no hygiene tests whatsoever. And the brewery's like, oh yeah, but you could do sandwiches. I'm like going, no, you can't. Oh, you could do hot pots. No, you can't. I could do one-off events. I've spoken to Environmental Health. We can do one-off events, kind of thing. But realistically, at a daily basis, we can't. Do you understand this? No. I'm going to have to strip, gut, rebuild the kitchen completely. Can you help? Oh no, there's no money in the budget for that. Right, okay, fine. And this is a leasehold pub, so I'm responsible for all the fixtures and fittings. And you're like, you've got no way you can help me out. No. Okay, fine. So we were in the pub. We were in the pub for just shy of 2 years. But we got to a point where we effectively ran out of, not so much we ran out of money, we ran out of cash. And you've got debt collectors at the door. You owe X amount in council tax because you haven't paid it. You haven't done your VAT returns because you haven't got an accountant because you couldn't afford an accountant. All of that kind of stuff. There's me thinking, I can do everything. Quite obviously, I can't. And in true bloke fashion, had I turned to anyone else for help? No, of course I hadn't. I'd kept it from Kay, I'd kept it from my family, I'd kept it from my friends. I was just working like 10 men in the background, juggling 90 million plates in the air and trying to keep everything up. Eventually, it tumbled. And you then go through that process of bankruptcy and losing everything. So that was it. The flat in Aldershot, all the bits and pieces, everything gone in a heartbeat. But actually, in some respect, the day that happened, it was like the weight of the world had been taken off my shoulders. Because I don't have to worry about it anymore. And I remember having to go up to the government agency that deals with bankruptcy. I can't remember what it's called. Was it the Insolvency Agency? And it's at St Albans. And I remember going into their office with like sheafs of paperwork. And so I sat down at this desk and put all this on the desk. And he's like going, right. And he was very personal. He was I want to say he was about 10 years older than me. He was like, look, Neil, that's it. It's over. You don't have to worry about this anymore because it's not your problem anymore. Do not worry about people knocking at your door. Do not worry about this. Do not worry about that. It's over. Nothing can hurt you now. You're like, oh, okay. And then you sit there and you go through all the process and you fill in all the paperwork. And who do you owe? I owe money to him and I owe money to them and that. Okay, what are your assets? I haven't got any. I've got the pub, but the brewery's taken that. The £10,000 deposit I gave to the brewery, they've kept. Not that they needed the 10. They could have given me the £10,000 back and I could pay all this debt. They don't need it. They've still got the building. That kind of thing. So it's like, oh, okay. So I'd been through that business process before. Now, actually, it wasn't all that bad because we had taken that pub from less than £1,000 a week turnover to £3,500 turnover on a pub, just selling beer, not selling food, anything like that, because we didn't have it because we were in the process. I'd spent 12 grand on the kitchen, having to have it stripped, gutted, rewired, extractor system, stainless steel fittings, plastering, tiling, the works. We were literally that close to getting the kitchen up and operational. But as I said, it was just we literally run out of cash. So, but as a business, the positives you took out was we took this business from £1,000 a week to £3,500 a week selling beer. So clearly, sales I was good at. The front of house stuff I was good at. The back of house stuff I was crap. And I can turn around. At the time, I didn't want to admit I was crap. Now I can turn around and go, oh no, boy, I was crap. I sucked really badly. But as an experience, it stood me in good stead. Now I said at that point, I would never run a business ever again. I would never take it on my head ever again. If I'm going to work, I'll work for someone else, so I don't have that stress, worry, pressure on me, because I just don't want it. And here we are, 14 years later, in a completely different scenario. But the difference this time around is I had that experience behind me. I had that life lesson behind me, and therefore I was much more knowledgeable about what I was doing. And this time round, we had there was a bit more in the tank in regards to, rather than just going through the process of writing a business plan, this time I properly wrote a business plan, and I understood it, and we had interrogated it, and we had tested it, and we had researched it 10 times more. It took 10 times longer. But at least this time round, it was we had a much better understanding. Fundamental difference this time round was I was not going to be a sole trader. We were going to be a limited company. You know, that was lesson learnt from the pub. We're definitely going down that line for that protection against anything bad happening. Was we had to go that we were going down that line. I wouldn't do sole trader. It wasn't right for us at the time. It doesn't suit the business. Sole trader is very useful in other circumstances. There are other people where that is much more applicable, and I would recommend them to do it, but understand what they are doing, kind of thing. And I think that was really brought time. So when I was fortunate enough to get a place on the Ex-Forces Enterprises Military Spouses Business Course, or Introduction to Business, or Introduction to Running Your Own Business course that they ran. And by the time I went on that course, we had 90% of the business plan was in there. And we sort of thing. I used that course as the method to interrogate everything that we had, bounce ideas off similar like-minded people, made some useful contacts, and it developed the idea as to what we were going to do. And then that propelled us forward to actually go forward and launch the business. But it was, I mean, the whole process, the thought process before starting the business was a good 12 months of plan.
We've got, because our events start that side, so we've got about another 5-10 minutes, I reckon. But tell me when did you start Explorer Coffees? What year?
It formally started trading June 2018.
Okay, cool. So the landscape's changed a lot over that time, right?
Yep.
In terms of competition, I'm guessing, especially competition from veteran-owned brands. Competition, yeah. But you don't market yourselves as towards the veteran community, do you? You were more general in the way you market yourselves, right? I don't think I even realised you were a veteran-owned brand until we ended up having a conversation. Someone said you were veteran-owned.
Yeah.
VO UK, actually, when we had a conversation, a couple of years back now, last year it was, about business. How do you find it a positive thing generally for business that there's more brands out there similar to yours, just in that they're veteran owned? Because it can be a positive thing, right, when there's more competition, and obviously competition drives quality, right? But also, it in certain circumstances it actually attracts more people to your market who otherwise wouldn't have been, for example, coffee buyers. I've only become a coffee buyer. Well, at the moment I'm on decaf, right? I still buy it because it's veteran and I give it away and stuff like that. But I only became someone who started buying coffee, like proper coffee, because I was introduced to Green Beret coffee, for example, and discovered all the rest. Now I've owned bags of Contact coffee, Explorer coffee, Hidden Warriors. I got a bag of that there, all those. And that only happened because I was exposed to one of the brands, and now I buy from them all. If that makes sense. Is that how you see it or not?
Yeah, it was interesting because it's one of those that goes back to that whole thing about business planning. It was that research. Now, any business sort of goes, right, here's my product. Where am I going to market it? And what I very much looked at was to go, actually, there is a demographic within this veteran thing, and there's a lot of veteran brands owned. Well, that's fine, I don't necessarily need to cater for that market because they've got it covered. But there is a lot of scope for artisan hand roasted coffee in the wider world. Now, actually, my background in the wider world was hill walking, climbing, Land Rovers, the whole outdoor pursuit. So we just went, well, actually, if we steer away from the military style branding and we go towards something else, I can sit and I can target that demographic. I can target that niche, and I think that's worked quite well. So from a branding perspective, I think that's worked quite well. Within that veteran-owned community and military spouses, and in fact, there's a couple actually who are serving personnel who are in that sphere as well. So Alex at Tactical Tea is still serving.
Oh yeah.
And I want to say, is it not Danger Close Coffee? Down the Range Coffee. I think he's just finished service. He was doing it as, if he said, as an interim as he was going through that resettlement process, and he's now pretty much he's full time. So there's all scopes there. So, but what there is the way that the coffee industry has gone is there is a big market for it. Just a case of who your demographic, who are you pitching at, what is your sales base? And I'd like to think that actually we've got a couple of sales bases. So we've got that outdoor explorer adventure piece with the links of being a military spouse, that we've got the military spouse network to sort of fall back on, thanks to the ability, because I produce everything myself, I can produce bespoke labelled goods, so therefore we've got trade and commercial covered. So actually I'm not just targeting one demographic and putting all my eggs in one basket. I've got lots of baskets in front of me that I can pick and serve as we go. So I've actually diversified the customer element across the board. And I think there's a lot of that out there, that there's still, and growth within the coffee market itself is still accelerating. What was starting to become apparent even before COVID was that people were starting to shy away from the more corporate brands. The high street brands, people were starting to move away from that, in the same way, similar to gin and rum, whereas actually they don't want to drink Gordon's gin anymore. They want to have this gin from Cornwall, they want that gin from Kent, and they want to vary between different types. And the coffee industry's gone the same way, so people don't just want to buy a well-known high street brand of coffee, they want to buy 2 or 3 different types.
Do you think that move towards that sort of move away from, like you said, the high street brands, the in the shop brands, do you think that's a product of, or a byproduct of products being more accessible, rare product, or not readily available products in the shop being more accessible because of things like online sales, because of things like internet searches? Because you reckon it's that does that?
Yeah,
because that's a really good development for small businesses, right? If that's the case.
It is, but then the flip side of that is then what happens with the high street.
That's going to go the way of the dodo, right? In some ways, it's not going to be the same thing in 10 years' time. It's going to be, I would expect it probably going to be more independently owned shops, right? As opposed to more of those, but have to be operating a different business model.
Yeah.
The way landlords and companies who have properties to rent out, they're going to have to change the way they do things to make things more affordable. It's all going to change significantly, I think.
It is
a question of how.
Yeah.
How.
Yes,
and the pandemic's accelerated that as well.
It has, and I don't think we've got quite to the how yet.
Shorter term leases, more moving about. Maybe it could be like you go and have a breakfast somewhere, you can have your starter somewhere, and you have your main, you have your dessert at someone else's house.
I was going to say, I know it could be. But I think there will be. I think there's a couple of things that probably have to change. One of them, I think the key one, is going to be taxation. But there doesn't seem to be a direction from either government or opposition to say, here's a taxation solution that solves the problem of the high street taking on the internet. That solution hasn't even been proffered yet. I don't see anything that's been offered as a solution. So I think that's got to change. And I think the other one that's got to change is actually with regards to the physicality of the buildings. That I think the days of high rent, high rates are dead. And the change has got to come. And this is not just me, because this is what I want to happen, even though it is that there's going to have to be moves. Like you said about, you talk about independent shops. To go with that, there has got to be some form of ownership, because people cannot pay high X £1,000 a month rent on a high street property. In fact, I'll give you an example, because there's one just come up by us, and it sort of plays in with what's happened with the high street. So obviously Burton's has gone. One of the reasons that they cited was that part of that business model with Burton was part of Arcadia, wasn't it? I can't remember. But one of the common things that's been cited, we tried to renegotiate the rents and it didn't happen, and we can't afford the rents. Well, the actual building that Burton has sat in Gosport has now been put on the market. Well, it's been put on the market at probably less than what the housing market is in that area. You can't buy a detached house for that price, and yet there's high street property that Burton's was in that you could buy outright freehold for 450,000. That's house territory. So why were they paying £2,500, £3,000, £4,000 a month rent against that?
Yeah, weird, isn't it? There's a pub in. It is weird the way it works. It's just like you say, it's outdated. There's a place in Warwick, actually, and good friends run it. It's a pub. I won't name the pub, and I won't name the people, right? But this place has got. In fact, they took it over right at the start of the pandemic. Oh my God! Honest to say, they just had like a year and a half of just nightmare.
Yeah.
Nightmare. And obviously, the feeling of taking over a place and going and having no money, right? But this place, huge building, right? 2 floors. Are they allowed to monetize the top floor at all? Are they? Hell, they're not allowed to do it. And they got space upstairs, right? You could have another bar up there. You could rent out rooms. It's got a living area. You could have you can have offices to rent out, meeting space to rent out, and they're not allowed to monetize it. What? Why? No. Why? Why? What's the reasons on that?
But they're still being charged.
Exactly.
Bear in mind, I can go back to my pub and go, I was paying £2,700 a month in rent, and that was 16 years. That was 16 years ago.
Mate, we're getting into a Leading Minds episode now.
Cool.
So you're going to be a future Leading Minds. It's the noise is going to start outside in a minute. I don't want to be caught up in that. That's the rain. It's raining you in the studio, folks.
It's raining outside, but it's not.
But for people listening or watching, the studio is located at Old Lemontonians RSC. Old Lemontonians RSC rejuvenated, renovated, did a load of improvement work on their bar and their whole clubhouse actually. And today is the 17th of May.
It is apparently.
People can go inside to clubs again, can't they? Pubs and stuff. So OLs have got OLRC have got a grand opening ceremony starting shortly. But it also gives them the opportunity, Neil, to go and you can meet John face to face.
I can indeed.
Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Lovely to be here.
Tell me about a website for people, Explorer Coffees, anything else you want to mention? Shameless plug opportunity, mate.
Shameless plug opportunity. Okay, so explorercoffees.com, where you can order hand roasted coffee, hand roasted by yours truly, and Traveller's Tea and Rangers Hot Chocolate. And we also have our clothing division, EC Clothing, which is active wear and casual wear. And coming in the next couple of weeks, probably by the time this hits the airwaves, our tech clothing piece will be up and running. And we also have another division called the Expedition and Campaign Stores, headed up by the QM. Which is luggage and camping and adventure accessories as well, all under one roof, all on one website, www.explorercoffees.com.
Perfect. Perfect. You are good at sales. That's been a pleasure.
No, and you.
We'll do it again for Leading Minds.
We will indeed.
Cheers, dude.